That is to say, I want to make up a diary for myself and create my own identity. The more real it is, the easier it is for people to believe, and the stronger the ability I get. Manhattan, inside an apartment building. Seeing himself passing through the awakening system, Su-che pondered. Yes, Su-che is a time traveler, who has inexplicably time traveled to this dangerous Marvel world. Fortunately, awakening has a biography system. As long as you fabricate an identity that is easy to believe according to the requirements of the system and the set identity, then you can get a powerful ability from it. Yes, host. Facing Su-che's inquiry, the system gave a mechanical affirmative answer. Clearly, the system isn't very smart. Just looking at the prompt given by the system, Su-che pondered slightly. I know the future development of this movie universe, so according to the direction of the timeline, there is no difficulty in coming up with an identity for yourself in a self-created diary. According to the system requirements, I need to create my own personality according to the identity limit it gives, and around this limit, there are not many restrictions given by the system. It starts with superhero. The second point is grow gradually. Point 3. Identity is about making the diary holder and making it believe. These 3 points are clear. First, I have to create my own personality as a superhero. The second point is that you can't directly write that you are invincible in the diary. This is symmetrical to the third point, that is to say, the more the diary holders believe in the diaries and personalities they made up, then you can gain more and more powerful strength. Instead of writing in the diary that I am invincible in this universe, then I am really invincible in this universe. However, the second and third limiting requirements correspond to each other. But the third point is also the hardest. It means that I want to write in the diary, and I have a relationship with the holder of the diary. This allows them to trust what they have written. Well, this is the hardest bit. System. Who are the holders of the initial diary? After pondering for a moment, Su-che asked the system. First-time diary holders: Wanda Django Maximoff, Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury. Looking at the initial 3 diary holders given by the system, Su-che nodded lightly. That means that the initial owner of the diary is Scarlet Witch, Widow's sister and Madame Frank Shaw, right? Scarlet Witch is easy to say. According to the timeline, she is still a 14-year-old girl in Sokovia. Although the Widow is already a famous Black Widow, it's not a big problem. The biggest problem is Nick Fury, who's never been skeptical about anything. It should be said that Nick Fury is the most difficult one for the initial diary holder to gain trust. Looking at the transparent compilation screen on the system panel in front of him, Su-che leaned on his chin and said, "You can't easily fabricate a persona and identity, you have to do it carefully. The most important thing is to have a relationship with these 3. Then how can I be a superhero and have a relationship with them?" After thinking for a few seconds, Su-che's eyes lit up. Have. The kind that can think of itself as a behind-the-scenes stream. Doesn't it just revolve around being a superhero? Does it have something to do with them? How simple is quantum mechanics? Looking at the system editing light curtain in front of him, Su-che began to edit. At the same time, SHIELD, or should I say, Strategic Homeland Defense Offensive and Logistics Agency, inside Nick Fury's office. Nick Fury, who just finished a discussion with Alexander Pierce, former director and current Secretary General of SHIELD. As soon as he returned to his office, he saw a black gold, extremely mysterious diary on his desk. Seeing the sudden addition of things on the desk, the only remaining eye of Nick Fury froze. Then he looked at Maria Hill, who was sitting not far from his desk, and asked, "Hill, has anyone been to my office?" Nobody. Facing Nick Fury's inquiry, Maria Hill, who was processing the documents, immediately replied, "It has been 12 minutes and 45 seconds since you went to find Mr. Pierce. I have been in the office during this period, and I can confirm that no one has entered your office." Hearing Hill's answer, Nick Fury came to the desk, pointed to the black gold diary on his desk and said, "How did that thing come about?" "What?" Looking in the direction of Nick Fury's finger, Maria Hill saw nothing but a clean desk and some neatly arranged files. "And didn't see anything? I mean this." Pointing to the diary, Nick Fury asked Hill, "You can't see?" "Boss, I don't understand what you're talking about." After making sure that she was not dazzled, Maria Hill's expression became serious. He got up and patted the ordinary watch on his wrist. The next moment, the holographic camera appeared, and the picture appeared in front of Nick Fury in real time. Director, as you can see, I can't see anything in the place you're pointing at. Even the whole series of cameras didn't show what you said. Seeing the entire series of images appear in front of him, Nick Fury frowned. In the holographic projection screen, there was nothing at the place he was pointing at. But when he turned his head, he could see where the black gold diary was kept intact. Nick, need me? Seeing Nick Fury frown, Maria Hill was about to speak when she saw Nick Fury wave his hand. Stretch out your hand, and the scanner on your wrist scans lightly. Looking at the state-of-the-art scanner did not suggest that the diary was in any danger or after radiation. Nick Fury's expression gradually became serious. At the same time, Sokovia, I really can't see, and there's nothing. Looking at Wanda, who insisted on calling her sister, she was actually her own sister. Pietro reached out and patted Wanda's palm. Look, if there is that black gold notebook you mentioned, then my hand should be slapped on the notebook, not directly in your palm. Did you not wake up last night, or did you have a fever? As he spoke, Pietro raised his hand in concern and measured Wanda's forehead. Okay, forget it if you can't see it. Slapping Pietro's hand away angrily, Wanda pointed to the door. Go and help me get my lunch back. This is what you, a younger brother, should do for your older sister. Listening to Wanda's words, Pietro looked at her helplessly. I always feel that Wanda is a little weird today. Parallel world. Looking at the content written in the black gold diary, Nick Fury frowned slightly. I once heard Dr. Oz put forward the theory of parallel worlds, but I didn't expect to see it in this diary now. Although he has always maintained a vigilant and skeptical attitude towards the contents written in this black gold diary. But Nick Fury decided to keep watching. My name is Su Che, and this is the second month since I traveled to this parallel world. I really like sitting on the bench and basking in the sun, because I can't remember how long it has been since the last time I could bask in the sun so leisurely. Yes, the world I'm in is destroyed, completely destroyed. At first, we thought we had won the battle. We defeated Kong the Conqueror. We defeated the Time Administration. We Avengers, guard the world once again. Seeing this, especially seeing the name Avengers, Nick Fury's pupils shrank instantly. Avengers has always been an idea he didn't implement. In his conception, it is to form a team with some super ability users. Use their power to guard the safety of this world. This is after the battle with the Kree is over, and after Captain Marvel Carol leaves Earth. Ideas that I conceived myself. But now, this concept of mine has not yet begun to unfold. He actually saw this name in this diary that appeared out of thin air and only he could see it. This can't help but make Nick Fury serious. After that battle, Hawkeye Barton told me with a smile that he had found his successor and could become the second-generation Hawkeye of the Avengers. Thor also jokingly said that his adopted daughter can also join the Avengers and become the second-generation Avenger. Loki spreads his hands and says he's going to have some kids with Hill, hopefully not as naughty as he used to be. Dr. Banner is discussing with his cousin, the female Green Titan, and Ant-Man. The son he brought back from Sakaar is getting more and more disobedient. Everything was so easy, everything was so peaceful. At the end of the day, they told me and my wife Wanda that we should have 2 more babies too. We could also name the baby Pietro. In this way, the members of the second-generation Avengers can stabilize the world, and our group of Avengers can retire. Sokovia. Look at the sentence, me and my wife Wanda, in the diary. Wanda, who was sitting on the sofa holding a diary and looking at it, felt a little overwhelmed for a moment. Why does this diary show my name? Is it the same name? But, can the baby's name be Pietro? This is definitely not the same name. After all, Wanda and Pietro, aren't they just me and my brother? Most importantly, she is the wife of the owner of this diary? That man named Su Che is my future husband. What? I don't even know the owner of this diary, that guy named Su Che. How could she become his wife, and want to have a baby with him? Although I have always hoped to have a warm home and have 2 cute and well-behaved babies with my future husband. But I am only 14 years old now. With a trace of curiosity, Wanda continued to read. At that time, the atmosphere was relaxed, and all superheroes were enjoying the relaxed atmosphere that the war had just ended. But in the next second, everything changed. Before we realized it, countless Conqueror Kong appeared in various timelines, and together with countless conquerors, there were also countless monsters and god groups. Those monsters and the god group are so powerful, they are so powerful that they are desperate. At that moment, the sky fell apart. Countless mountains and rivers began to collapse, and countless rivers and seas boiled and evaporated. As far as the eye can see, there are ruins everywhere, and as far as the eye can see, there are corpses everywhere. It seems that the whole world is full of desperate wailing. We failed, even though we Avengers have saved the world countless times. But this time, we really failed. Hawkeye Barton is dead, Thor is dead, Dr. Banner is dead, and the Green Titan is dead, all dead. I don't know if they were unwilling or desperate before they died in battle. All I know is that at the moment when the Earth exploded into a tiny speck of dust in the universe, I saw Natasha Romanoff, Steve, Tony. That was the earliest group of people in our first generation of Avengers, and it was also the first group of people in our Avengers to die in battle or retire. I only know that when my consciousness dissipated in despair, we have protected the Earth countless times, but in the end we were not spared. We lose. The first diary was written here and ended abruptly. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. at this moment, in Nick Fury's mind, with the end of the diary, it seems that scenes of despair are also filled in his mind. This is the power of words. No exaggeration, no long descriptions. But it was the simple to desolate sense of despair that deeply enveloped Nick Fury, as well as Natasha Romanoff and Wanda who were reading the diary. They even seemed to have witnessed the desperate doomsday scene described in the diary. After reading the first diary, Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, the scene described in the first article of this diary is so shocking. In the diary, Kong the Conqueror failed, but Kong the Conqueror on various timelines joined forces with many monsters and the celestial god group to destroy the Earth together. But who is Kong the Conqueror? Some villain who wants to destroy the planet. What is the Tenjin group? The so-called gods in Norse mythology. What is the Time Administration? The same organization as the National Strategy. S.H.I.E.L.D. that I control now? Nick Fury is pretty sure he's never heard of the Time Administration. Imagining this, Nick Fury turned on the computer, and then entered a few names on the computer. Su-Che, Barton, Dr. Banner, the Green Titan, Thor, Loki, Hilvi, Ant-Man, Wanda, Pietro, Tony, Steve, Natasha Romanoff. After thinking about it, Nick Fury distinguished the three names Tony, Steve, and Natasha Romanoff from other names. After all, according to the Black Gold Diary, Tony, Steve and Natasha Romanoff were the first to sacrifice or retire. After a few seconds of hesitation, Pietro's name was classified into the column of Tony, but an indeterminate symbol was marked behind Pietro's name. It is clearly stated in the diary that other people hope that the owner of the diary and Wanda will have a child named Pietro. Definitely, that doesn't mean Pietro is dead. After all, many times, there are always people who name their children uncle, or other people in the family. After dividing the names, Nick Fury began to think about these people. According to the diary above, these people are all conceived by themselves, members of the Avengers. Su-Che can be sure that the owner of this diary came from a parallel world. Barton and Natasha Romanoff and Dr. Banner should be able to ascertain as well. And what about this guy named Tony? Who is he? Is it the same name, or that famous playboy, the son of Mr. Howard Stark? Probably not him, after all, no matter what this guy Tony Stark thinks. They are all standard arrogant, narcissistic, playboys. Nick Fury has a hard time linking him to the so-called superhero. Thor, Loki, Hill and others don't know it either. But Ant-Man. It reminds Nick Fury of Dr. Pym. He seems to be able to use Pym particles to change the file size. In the top secret files of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ant-Man is marked. Will it be Dr. Pym? Probably not. There is a detail in the diary. Dr. Banner is talking with Ant-Man and the female Green Titan about the education of his son brought back from Sakaar. It should be stated, then, that Ant-Man also has a child. And Dr. Pym's daughter is almost 30 years old now. And according to Dr. Pym's character, no matter how you think about it, you won't discuss this matter with Dr. Banner. While Nick Fury was thinking, there was a knock on the office door. Signaling people to come in, Nick Fury saw Natasha Romanoff walking in. Seeing Natasha Romanoff walk in, Nick Fury didn't put away the diary, but asked calmly, "Natasha Romanoff, what do you want?" Anyway, according to my own test, other people cannot see this black gold diary. There was something wrong at first, but Mr. Director, it's all right now. Looking at the black gold diary on Nick Fury's desk, Natasha Romanoff shook her head. Then he took out the same diary with a black gold cover from behind him. "You also have?" Looking at the black gold diary in Natasha Romanoff's hand, Nick Fury raised his eyebrows slightly. "Apart from you, who else in S.H.I.E.L.D. owns this diary?" "S.H.I.E.L.D.? Natasha Romanoff nodded after reacting. "That's right, the name S.H.I.E.L.D. is indeed much simpler and more convenient than our current name." After complaining, Natasha Romanoff sat across Nick Fury's desk and shook her head. "I don't know much about this. However, except for me, no one else seems to be able to see or touch this black gold diary. I just tried Hawkeye and found that Hawkeye can't see this diary in my hand. That is to say, other than the holder of the diary, no one else can see it." Nick Fury nodded when he heard what Natasha Romanoff said. "Not only that, Director, in fact, the holder of the diary cannot disclose the contents of the diary to others." Natasha Romanoff continued to add to Nick Fury. "I just tried it out and wanted to tell Hawkeye the unimportant content written in the diary. But before the words were spoken, I suddenly felt a palpitation. It seemed that as long as I said it, I would die. The last time I had such a terrifying feeling was when I was training in the Red House." Having said that, Natasha Romanoff looked at Nick Fury and asked seriously, "Director, what do you think of what is written in the diary?" "What do you think?" Facing Nick Fury's question, the widow tapped on Erlang's leg and fell silent for a moment. "I hope it's fake, although the diary is full of oddities. But if it's true, then I'm not sure if the future of the parallel universe in this diary will be the future of our world." "So you believe it?" Listening to Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury asks. "Have no idea." Facing Nick Fury's words, Natasha Romanoff pretended to be relaxed and smiled. "I don't know whether I should believe it or not. After all, the first entry in this diary is simply hopeless. But if that Hawkeye Barton in the diary is the Hawkeye we know, then that Natasha Romanoff must be me. So, if what is written in the diary is true, then I will be the first among the so-called Avengers to retire or die in battle." Having said that, Natasha Romanoff looked at Nick Fury and said with a smile, "So Mr. Director, do you want me to be the first to die in battle, or the first to retire?" Facing Natasha Romanoff's smile, Nick Fury was silent for a moment. "Avengers has actually always been a concept of mine, a super ability team that wants to gather super ability users to save the world and face the crisis." Looking at Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury said very seriously, "I haven't implemented this idea yet, or in other words, no one knows the name Avengers except me." "Director, that means you believe the contents of this diary?" "It does not matter." Looking at Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury said seriously, "Natasha Romanoff, from now on you give up all the next tasks. There is only one goal, to find out the owner of this diary. This is very important to us. If what the owner of this diary wrote is true, then the owner of the diary, Su Che, who knows what will happen in the future in advance, will be very important to us." Facing Nick Fury's extremely serious look, Natasha Romanoff spread her hands. "I definitely know this, but there are 7 billion people in this world. There are 1.4 billion people in China who have removed black and white skin. Director, we only know his name as Su Che, and he is a super ability man. The specific ability is unknown, the identity is unknown, the appearance is unknown, and the location is unknown. To use a Chinese idiom, this is looking for a needle in the vast sea. The most important thing is, if he is in China, the territory of the Shenspeare Bureau, according to the comparison of the strength of the Shenspeare and our country. Our shield. It is estimated that our aegis has been broken, and the god spear will not hurt the bones. In the comics, shield and divine spear are really not the same size, whether it is the number of super ability fighters or similar aerospace aircraft carrier battleships, or the number of members." Hearing what Natasha Romanoff said, Nick Fury also leaned on the seat and squeezed his eyebrows. "It's really difficult. Take your time. Since the first diary is out, I think the second diary may not be too far away. At least, when the next few diaries appear, Maybe we can find the figure of the owner of this diary, Su Che. Manhattan, inside an apartment building. In other words, Nick Fury is the most trusted of the three? Seeing that Nick Fury's trust in the diary is as high as 57%, while Wanda is only 40%, and Natasha Romanoff is only 35%. Su Che was slightly surprised. After all, in his mind, Wanda, who is only 14 years old now, should be the best to deceive. She is still young now, and she is only thinking of avenging her parents. And Nick Fury, who is skeptical of everything, is the hardest thing to convince him. Unexpectedly, the guy who was the most difficult to deceive trust is now the one with the highest trust. Tisk. Looking at the first diary I compiled, Su Che suddenly reacted. Yes, Nick Fury hasn't proposed to build the Avengers team yet. In other words, the concept of Avengers exists only in Nick Fury. Probably this is why Nick Fury has the highest level of trust among the three. Get up and go to the window, watching the people coming and going outside. Depend on. This is the most dangerous place in the Marvel world, New York, where both aliens and villains like to make trouble. If it is not to follow the system requirements, if it wasn't for the next contact with Avengers members, let them believe that they are people from the parallel universe. So as to get a stronger ability, then I have already thought of a way to leave here and return to the territory guarded by the Domestic Spear Bureau. Tisk, and the system has to be set with a superhero from a parallel world. Otherwise, how cool it would be to be a Homelander by yourself, and, to the moon soaring to the sky, without any scruples. Thinking of this, Su Che laughed. Then open the system and start receiving the rewards from the first diary. Water control ability? Looking at the ability given by the system, Su Che raised his eyebrows slightly. This is the rhythm of making yourself Aquaman, alright. Perhaps it's because of the three, only Nick Fury has the highest level of trust. So the ability rewarded by the system is not the most advanced. But anyway, it's a good start, isn't it? Raising his hand slightly, the next moment the water in the glass in front of him began to flow upwards directly following Su Che's thoughts. Then it slowly gathered in Su Che's palm. It can even be transformed into any shape with Su Che's idea. Just like now, Su Che only thinks about the shape of the arrow. The next moment, the water droplet in the palm instantly turned into an arrow. With a light wave of his hand, the water arrow flew out in an instant, directly piercing through the photo frame on the wall. Seeing the power of the water arrow, Su Che nodded in satisfaction. Advertisement. Moreover, who said that water control can only become like this? You must know that the water content of an adult's body accounts for 70%. So, huh? As soon as this idea came out, Su Che shook his head instantly. Why is it a little bit evil? Hiding this thought from his mind, Su Che then opened the diary compilation page. Well, anyway, I am not Homelander now, but I want to create a superhero for myself. It can't be so evil yet, right? Opening the diary editing page, Su Che thought for a while. How can the three diary holders increase their trust more? After thinking about it, maybe I should make my personality more full. And I have to get in touch with them, otherwise how can I gain more trust? Definitely, we have to be prepared for S.H.I.E.L.D. to tie himself up as a prophet. After all, prophets are dangerous. Su Che doesn't want to be kidnapped by someone sent by Nick Fury just because of revealing his identity. Then locked in the secret hut, interrogated about the future every day. For anything, the only way to make yourself invincible is to keep the worst idea, right? Advertisement. After thinking for a while, Su Che's eyes lit up. Have. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Director, the diary has been updated. Natasha Romanoff, who was flipping through the diary and repeatedly reading the contents of the first diary. Suddenly, I saw text appearing on the second page of the diary, which was originally blank. He immediately said to Nick Fury. Hearing Natasha Romanoff's words, Nick Fury also immediately flipped through the diary, ready to see what was written in the second entry of the diary. It has been more than half a month since I came to this parallel world. I thought I could gradually forget the world I was in. But looking at the scene in front of me, bits and pieces of my world always pop up in my mind. I really want to take another look at the world that belongs to me. Close black lens bracket. If the two worlds are only separated by distance and time, then even if there are hundreds of millions of light years apart, I will try my best to return to the world that belongs to me. However, that world of mine has been destroyed, and it has been completely turned into an insignificant speck of dust in the universe. Can't go back. What a despair. Close black lens bracket. Perhaps I should continue to protect this parallel world. Continue to be a superhero among Avengers, and use my ability to protect this parallel world from the doom of destruction. However, I am a little tired. Close black lens bracket. In my world, I have been an Avenger for more than 10 years, and I can't count how many times I have saved the world from the crisis of destruction. I just want to be a common now. Be an office worker who only cares about life. Perhaps, this is why God let me come to this parallel world, and it is the best reward for my more than 10 years of Avenger career. Advertisement, but I can't do it. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Dream back to midnight. In every dream, I can see the despair of my comrades and Avengers members before they die. I dreamed of them more than once, dreaming that they told me to continue to protect the world. I was even in my dream, subconsciously looking for a way to save this world. Every time is very tiring. Every time I have to face despair, but in my dream, I never stop. Close black lens bracket. Maybe I should go to Nick Fury now and talk to him about the dangers the world faces in the future. But I don't want to do that. On the one hand, Tony in this alternate universe timeline hasn't been kidnapped yet. He hasn't become Iron Man yet. Everything has not yet officially opened. On the other hand, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not safe. At least, there are only a few people in S.H.I.E.L.D. that I can trust. Nick Fury, Maria Hill, Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, Lin Tae. I may be able to contact them now, but I cannot contact other people in S.H.I.E.L.D., let alone let other people in S.H.I.E.L.D. know that I came from a parallel world. Because S.H.I.E.L.D. is not really S.H.I.E.L.D. yet. Even Nick Fury is blinded by that group of people at the moment. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Well, that's pretty good, at least before Tony is kidnapped and becomes Iron Man, which symbolizes the official start of everything. Maybe I can live a flat but simple life. Just let me, my heart full of cracks, take a brief moment of self-cultivation. Close black lens bracket. Looking at the contents of the diary, Nick Fury frowned. What is called S.H.I.E.L.D. is not really S.H.I.E.L.D. What does it mean to be blinded by those people? Moreover, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not safe. How many people can he trust now? Looking at the content written in the diary at this moment, Nick Fury inexplicably felt an extremely bad, even absurd premonition. Director. Listening, Natasha Romanoff looked up at himself, seeing that she was about to say something. Nick Fury waved his hand suddenly. Under Natasha Romanoff's gaze, Nick Fury reached out and pressed a hidden button under the table. In an instant, a signal shielding wave invisible to the naked eye enveloped Nick Fury's office. I don't know what the content written in this diary means. But looking at what he wrote, it's obvious what happened to S.H.I.E.L.D. in his parallel world. Although there is already a guess in my heart that even Nick Fury finds it ridiculous. But he didn't say it directly. Continue to read this diary, and after reading this diary, we will ask questions or draw conclusions. Listen to Nick Fury. Although Natasha Romanoff has strong doubts in her heart at the moment. But he still nodded and continued to read the diary. In the diary, if the previous content was written on purpose to Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff, it is to make them believe that when they come into contact with them, some embarrassing things will not happen. Then the next content in the diary, it is related to Wanda, compiled by Su Che. Rain and Dew. After all, there are 3 diary holders. Su Che definitely couldn't leave Wanda behind. Su Che is very good at writing short essays. Unfortunately, one of the system rewards for the first diary is to turn the ice cream shop opposite Stark Industry into your own coffee shop. Instead of making Stark Industries your own. Even if it is to make Hammer Industries its own. Save money. Opposite to Stark Industry, it was originally an ice cream shop, but now it has become a coffee shop. Yes, this cafe is mine now. Close black lens bracket. I like to sit on the edge of the window in the coffee shop and look out, because it makes me feel rare peace and tranquility. Close black lens bracket. I named this cafe, Peach Blossom Forest, because when I first met Wanda, it was in a peach blossom forest. Close black lens bracket. At that time, Ultron was just born and was still preparing to destroy the world. At that time, Wanda and Pietro chose to help Ultron because of their parents' hatred and Ultron's deception. Close black lens bracket. Later, the Avengers defeated Ultron, and Wanda also became a member of the Avengers. Afterwards, we were together. Close black lens bracket Sokovia. Seeing that she was mentioned again in the diary, Wanda's eyes lit up instantly. She is curious to know what will happen to her future. I also really want to know if I will avenge my parents in the future. Although the owner of the diary is a bad guy, he always says that he is his husband. What? I don't believe it myself. However, looking at the peach blossom forest mentioned in the diary, Wanda was still slightly surprised. He actually knows that his favorite is the beautiful peach blossom forests. Could it be that the owner of this diary is really her future husband? How else would he know what he likes best? With a hint of curiosity, Wanda continued to look at it. The reason why I opened a coffee shop is because this is the original idea of me and Wanda. When we were together, I said I wanted to open a coffee shop, and she said she wanted to open a flower shop next to the coffee shop. Close black lens bracket. I also said that the coffee shop and the flower shop are for our future daughter. As for our son, we will send him to be a doctor or a lawyer. Close black lens bracket. When the two of us are together, we always like to cuddle up to each other and discuss the future careers of our son and daughter. Always constantly looking forward to the future. Close black lens bracket. However, who would have thought that the future we were looking forward to would eventually turn into a piece of dust? Close black lens bracket. Who is cuddling with you, and also a son and daughter? Why does he write everything in his diary? Looking at the contents of the diary, Wanda blushed slightly. I also began to wonder what the owner of this diary looks like. After all, this person named Su-che is very likely to be her future husband. 14 years old is the age when one can imagine wildly and yearn for love. So looking at the content written in the diary, Wanda inexplicably had a trace of anticipation. The first thought I came to this world was to go to Sokovia to find Wanda. But, is the Wanda of this world my Wanda? Also, I can't do that either. Not to mention that she is only 14 years old at the moment. Most importantly, although she and Pietro were born with the ability, they didn't know it. Even if the mind gem as a medium stimulates their ability, then they may be common people in this life. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. I can't, at least I shouldn't decide their fate. But I really saw her, even if I just hid from a distance and took a look. Perhaps, Wanda is my deepest obsession and the last trace of attachment in this world. But I know that the Wanda in this world doesn't belong to me, at least, she doesn't belong to me right now. Looking at what was written in the diary, Wanda's eyes lit up. Will I and Pietro have super abilities in the future? Doesn't that mean that he and Pietro have the opportunity to find that damn Tony Stark and avenge their parents? However, as stated in the diary, the ability of myself and Pietro needs that mind gem to stimulate this ability. What are mind gems? It shouldn't be those rubies and sapphires. I really want to ask Baron Strucker, he should know what mind gem is. It's just that the contents of the diary can't be disclosed to non-diary holders. After all, when I first got the diary, I wanted to tell Pietro the contents of the diary. The result was heart palpitations. That feeling is really horrible. However, what kind of super ability will I and Pietro have in the future? It's really exciting. Really, this stinky guy named Su-che shouldn't have written in his diary. The key things that should be written are not written at all. Really. If I meet him in the future and really become his girlfriend, then I must ignore him for 3 days. Shield, inside Nick Fury's office. Director, it seems that I don't need to bother to investigate the owner of this diary named Su-che. He has clearly written his location in the diary, and the coffee shop he opened is across from Stark Industries in Manhattan. Having said that, Natasha Romanoff looked at Nick Fury and asks, "So director, do I need to meet with him, or should I bring someone to tie him here?" No. Listening to Natasha Romanoff's proposal, Nick Fury thought about it for a few seconds, then waved his hand. Obviously, the owner of the diary, Su-che, doesn't trust S.H.I.E.L.D. In other words, I don't trust the current S.H.I.E.L.D. although I still don't understand why this Su-che trusts us, but to S.H.I.E.L.D. However, I will slowly figure out what's inside. Before that, don't bring him to S.H.I.E.L.D. for now. Having said that, Nick Fury looked at Natasha Romanoff. Through the content written in this diary, What kind of person or state do you think Suche is now? Superhero. A superhero who has saved the Earth countless times. Facing Nick Fury's questioning, Natasha Romanoff replied bluntly. If what is written in the diary is true, then there is no doubt that this Suche is a respectable superhero. Analyzing a person based on the intelligence they have is one of the basic skills a professional agent should have. As for the mental state, it is not difficult to analyze the fragments revealed between the lines. This Mr. Suche is very tired. Definitely, I mean the psychological aspect. Director, let's assume that this diary is real. So according to what is written in the diary, it has been more than half a month since he came to our parallel universe. But he often dreams about the destruction of the parallel universe he was in. This shows that he is full of stress and anxiety. I even feel deep self-blame for failing to save the world he lives in. Otherwise, you wouldn't be looking for a way to save the world even in your subconscious dream. Speaking of this, Natasha Romanoff looked at Nick Fury and smiled. Definitely, it is also written in the diary that he is an Avenger for more than 10 years, an old superhero. He has saved the Earth countless times. This can also show from the side that his mind should be very firm. You must know that ordinary people cannot continue to fight against villains who want to destroy the Earth for more than 10 years. Although, as written in the diary, he failed in the end, and the Earth he was on was destroyed. Listening to Natasha Romanoff's analysis, Nick Fury nodded in agreement. Similar to what he analyzed. Seeing Nick Fury nodding, Natasha Romanoff hesitated for a few seconds and said, Director, what he wrote in his diary, that Tony hasn't been kidnapped yet, and everything hasn't officially started yet. So before that, he wanted to live a common life. I can actually understand this, just like I have been tired of tasks again and again, tired of my life. But if what happened in his world, the future really happens in our world. Then director, I suggest that you should contact him in advance, although he only wants to live the life of a commoner now. Are you interested in him? Listening to Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury easily heard her subtext. Definitely, how could you not be interested? Facing Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff crossed her legs and said with a smile, the superhero in the parallel world, it should be very interesting to touch. Also, now that he's full of stress and anxiety, and even deeply blamed for failing to save his world, I think maybe he needs a psychiatrist at this moment. As it happens, I'm still very professional in this area. What's more, I also want to test the authenticity of this diary. After all, only by getting in touch with him can I evaluate him more deeply. If he recognized me right away, it doesn't matter whether he pretended not to know me or revealed my identity directly. At least it can show that the content written in this diary should have some credibility. Putting his legs down, Natasha Romanoff looked at Nick Fury. He said that among the people S.H.I.E.L.D. can trust now is me. Then such a good opportunity, I think I should go and meet him. After all, I really want to know now, in that Avengers team, was I the first to retire or the first to die? Looking at Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff spoke seriously and with interest. System prompt. Since Wanda Maximoff has reached 90% trust, a special reward for the full version of water control ability. And reward the simulated diary function once. Simulation introduction. Suche can simulate what happened in the diary to change the host's demeanor, experience, etc. Looking at the rewards given by the system, Suche's eyes lit up slightly. Well, co-authoring the water control ability that I just obtained yesterday is a castrated version. The water control ability obtained now is the real full version. After receiving the water control ability, the next moment Suche felt that the surrounding air was full of water molecules. He slightly raised his hand, and in the next second, a group of deep blue water polo appeared in the empty space in front of him. With a thought, Zon Blue's water polos sometimes turned into dozens of blue swords, and sometimes turned into a terrifying water beast. It seems that as long as Suche gives an order, these water swords and water beasts can directly penetrate the enemy in front of them. As if getting a new toy, he kept changing the Zon Blue water polo into any shape. After playing for a while, Suche let the water polo wrap himself. A thick layer of water enveloped Suche's whole body. Standing in the middle of the water mass, Suche found that he could not only breathe in the water. Even as long as you think about it, even your clothes will not be soaked. Even if the clothes are soaked, you only need to wave your hand lightly, and the clothes can be cleaned immediately without the need for the washing machine to spin the dryer. Well, with this ability, you can save money on a washing machine. Well, if the above is just a joke, then Su-Che thinks that he has this ability to control water. Then if you stand in the middle of the ocean, wouldn't you be invincible? And with this full version of ability, Su-Che no longer needs to carry a bottle of water with him. By simply waving your hands, you can turn the water molecules in the air into weapons to attack the enemy. Don't think that water's attack is weak. In fact, the energy of water is quite terrifying. To give an inappropriate example, the energy of a high-pressure water gun can easily cut a stone slab. And Su-Che is like a human-shaped high-pressure water gun at this moment, as long as the energy of the water is enough. Then Su-Che can even easily destroy a mountain with water arrows. Well, if the full version of water control ability makes Su-Che very happy, then this simulation reward was what surprised Su-Che the most. Just imagine, writing in your diary, how your parallel world collapsed. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't save that world in the end. After meeting Natasha Romanoff or Nick Fury, people found that they didn't have the emotions written in the diary at all. Don't tell me now. At least it will become very difficult to make them 100% believe what they wrote in the diary. After all, sometimes, lies can be told, but that kind of experience cannot be faked. Sitting on the sofa in the living room, Su-Che took a deep breath, and then gave instructions to the system. Start to simulate the scene of the destruction of the world that I wrote in my diary. Following Su-Che's command, the next second, his eyes were dazzled, and the space began to flicker. In just a moment, the surrounding scenery changed rapidly in his mind. A strong sense of science fiction slowly formed in front of my eyes. In the blink of an eye, Su-Che seemed to appear in a ruined wall. And sitting around are those superheroes who are scarred and survived. What are you thinking? Hawkeye, who was wearing a hearing aid, patted Su-Che on the shoulder, and then began to ramble about her daughter and another good seedling he found. It seems to be enjoying the second generation of Hawkeye joining the Avengers, and he can enjoy the time of retirement. On the side, Thor, Loki and others are also describing the future life, and Dr. Banner from Hulk Integrate is talking about children's upbringing with Ant-Man and the Green Titan. It can be said that the whole atmosphere is extremely relaxed. It seems to be the kind of ease of victory after the war. Yes, it is the ease after victory, not the carnival after victory. Su-Che could clearly feel that his mentality was being affected. It seems as if I have also experienced more than 10 years of Avenger career, saving the world time and time again. So there is no carnival joy in saving the world again. Yes, it's just a sense of relief after saving the world again. Just when the mentality was slowly changing, the next second, the world was dark. Looking around, countless Kong the Conqueror appeared in the sky in front of him on various timelines. Beside countless Conqueror Kong, there are countless monsters. At the top of the sky, there seemed to be a group of gods who seemed to be bigger than the earth, looking down at the people like themselves. It seems that the earth will be easily crushed by them in the next second. Call. After the simulation came back, Su-Che subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. In the simulated scene of the system just now, Su-Che seemed to have really experienced the doomsday catastrophe compiled by himself. Depression, fear, palpitations, despair, all kinds of negative emotions enveloped Su-Che's heart. Even the moment when the Tiantian group looked down at everyone in the vast sky, and then crushed the earth with one hand. Su-Che seemed to really feel the feeling of dying in despair. Taking a deep breath, he dispelled all the negative emotions in his heart. Subconsciously looking at the mirror on the wall. Only then did Su-Che suddenly realize that although he was still 19 years old in the mirror, he was still so handsome. But the sense of vicissitudes in his eyes couldn't go away no matter what. It was as if, I was really like the diary I compiled. It's the same as experiencing these hopeless things in parallel universes. I got up and went to the balcony to exercise my muscles and bones, and closed my eyes to feel the warmth brought by the sun. After a long time, the various negative emotions in Su-Che's heart slowly dissipated. This simulation really can't be tried lightly. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have used the reason of the end of the world, Kong the Conqueror and the Celestial Team, to destroy the Earth. However, at least you don't have to worry about it now, after Nick Fury or the Widow find themselves. I see right through myself. Well, just like the system said. Stories can be edited, but experience cannot be faked. Especially people like Widow or Nick Fury. It is a basic operation to see through a person based on a person's actions, even micro-expressions. Especially Nick Fury, the so-called king of agents, Mare Frank. If there is any doubt about a common heart, then if this person does not have a certain amount of experience, just relying on the development trend of the future timeline to talk in front of him, I'm afraid he can tear it apart at a glance. Never underestimate anyone. This is the rule that Su Che set for himself after traveling to this Marvel world. Although I know what will happen in the future, if I look down on others because of this, then I'm afraid it will really capsize in the gutter. Su Che's guess was not wrong. In fact, whether it was Nick Fury or Natasha Romanoff, they were already smart. If it's common, there's no way to be like them. Like now. In the diary, Su Che wrote that he did not trust S.H.I.E.L.D., or that he could only trust those few people in S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff saw it all. Still, Natasha Romanoff didn't ask Nick Fury that question when she left the S.H.I.E.L.D. without asking him what is called the moment is not the real S.H.I.E.L.D. Not to mention asking why the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. can't be trusted. Natasha Romanoff didn't ask, and Nick Fury didn't say. It's just that when the Widow sister left, Nick Fury's expression became uneasy. As the king of agents, as the person in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., as a person who doesn't have any special super abilities, but can single-handedly form a team of super abilities like Avengers, Nick Fury had an extremely absurd guess in his mind. However, he didn't tell anyone. According to the clues in the diary, 70% of the Tony Su Che mentioned should be Tony Stark. Otherwise, he wouldn't open the coffee shop, Peach Blossom Forest, opposite Stark Industry. People always like to be close to the people they trust and know the most. This is one of the subconscious nature of human beings. But according to what he said, the prelude to everything started when Tony Stark would be kidnapped. Thinking of this, Nick Fury tapped the table lightly. The next moment, the holographic projection of Tony Stark appeared directly in front of Nick Fury. Watch a holographic projection of Tony Stark, as well as his latest itinerary and some news. Nick Fury gradually began to think. Su Che opened the coffee shop opposite the Stark Industry, but the diary did not clearly state that he wanted to stop the kidnapping. So that means, this kidnapping about Tony Stark will be one of the turning points in Tony's fate. And according to the speculation in the diary, the prelude to this kidnapping should be something that happened recently. Otherwise, this Su Che wouldn't use the word rest for a while. Leaning on the chair and pinching his chin, Nick Fury frowned and looked at the holographic projection of Tony Stark in front of him. But in his mind, he was imagining whether he should send someone to follow Tony Stark to stop this upcoming kidnapping case. After thinking for more than 10 seconds, Nick Fury decided to do nothing for the time being. After all, it is not difficult to see based on the speculation in the diary. Although Tony Stark will be kidnapped, his life will not be in danger. On the contrary, this will become one of the factors that will turn Tony Stark, an arrogant playboy, into a superhero. Whether it changes what happens in the future, Nick Fury doesn't care. What he really cares about is what happens in the future of his world written in Su Che's guest diary in this parallel world. Will the same happen in my own world? This is the most important. Turned off Tony Stark's hologram. Nick Fury is looking forward to now, Natasha Romanoff and Su Che's upcoming first meeting. Perhaps, this will bring some unexpected surprises to myself. Seriously, Nick Fury doesn't care how many people die, or who they die. In fact, in his career over the years, he has seen too many deaths. Many of them were even sent away by him, but Tony Stark was different after all. Although, Tony Stark is a selfish, arrogant, playboy. It's just not likable at all. However, his father is Mr. Howard Stark after all. One of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. because Mr. Howard Stark and Ms. Maria died that Christmas night. So Nick Fury felt that as the controller of S.H.I.E.L.D., he needed to ensure that Tony Stark could survive safely. Besides, Ms. Page is still alive. But if there is no life-threatening, just be kidnapped and suffer some torture. In the end, it allows him to grow and become a superhero. Well, Nick Fury thinks it's all worth it. At least, that's what Mr. Howard Stark and Ms. Maria hope to see. So about Tony Stark being kidnapped by Dow. Nick Fury chose to put it aside. What he wants to see now is Natasha Romanoff and this mysterious parallel universe traveler. The owner of the Black Gold Diary, Su Che's first meeting. Perhaps, this will bring you unexpected surprises. Well, that's what Nick Fury made himself think on purpose to distract himself from that absurd guess. Although, Nick Fury cannot 100% trust the contents of this Black Gold Diary. However, some preparations should be done. Early the next morning. Manhattan, across from Stark Industries. Inside the Tahualan Cafe. Morning boss. Good morning, sir. Seeing Su Che walk in, the staff of the coffee shop greeted Su Che warmly. From an ice cream parlor employee to a coffee shop employee. These people don't mind that jobs and bosses all change. After all, compared to the weekly salary of 130 yuan a week at an ice cream shop. The weekly salary of 200 yuan per week in the coffee shop is even more attractive to them. Good morning. Seeing the three very beautiful employees greeting him, Su Che responded with a smile one by one. This ice cream shop is very big, so the size of the coffee shop will naturally not be small. After all, in Manhattan, a place where every inch of land is very expensive, if it is a small ice cream shop, I am afraid that it will not make much money at all. The daily expenses of water, electricity, rent are a large number. Not to mention the salaries of the 3 college students. Well, Su Che has a total of 6 employees, and they always have to change shifts. Boss, is it still the same? Looking at Su Che, Selena asked with a sweet smile. Definitely. Okay, black coffee without sugar will be delivered to your place immediately. For more than half a month, the employees here have long been familiar with the boss, who likes to drink black coffee without sugar. At the same time, I always like to sit near the window, where I can get the sun. Although I don't know why my boss always likes to sit in a position where he can bask in the sun. But this does not prevent them from liking their boss. After all, generous, don't arrange extra work for them. Bosses who don't criticize their jobs, don't harass them. Well, that doesn't count. Anyway, Su Che is the best boss. Besides, the boss is so handsome. It is normal for the 3 views to follow the 5 senses. The only pity is that the boss doesn't seem to have much interest in them. Otherwise, it would be good to go on a few dates and experience the flogging from the east. Coupled with the young man who can open a coffee shop in Manhattan, where every inch of land is precious, there must be a lot of family property. If he can get his hands on it, he will be a proper son-in-law, the kind who will struggle for decades less. Hey, Superman, did the sun give you strong Kryptonian powers today? Walking into the coffee shop, I looked at Su Che who was sitting by the window drinking black coffee and basking in the sun. Peepo greeted with a smile. As Tony Stark's personal assistant and personal secretary. As someone who works at Stark Industries almost every day. Peepo is definitely familiar with this original ice cream parlor, which is now a coffee shop. And after going back and forth, she also became acquainted with Su Che, the owner of this coffee shop. After all, as an elite, Peepo likes to sit in the coffee shop every day after work. Enjoy a rare afternoon of leisure time. Peepo was still very curious about Su Che. Even though he was young, even more than 10 years younger than himself. But whether it is mental maturity, speech or personal cultivation, they are all perfect enough. The most important thing is that the trace in the eyes does not match the age, as if he has experienced many things and can see through all the vicissitudes and mysteries. That's attractive enough. Women, like this tune. Peepo is no exception. There is also a reason for calling him Superman. After all, those who like to bask in the sun are not necessarily called Superman. Definitely, it doesn't involve a relationship between a man and a woman. Looking at Peepo who was sitting across from him with a coffee, Su Che laughed. I don't know if I will transform into Superman. But I'm very clear about your skipping work today. Who said I skipped work? Taking a sip of the coffee, Peepo chuckled lightly. I just checked in at Stark Industry. So you see, I've already clocked in, which already means I'm at work, so how can you say I'm skipping work? Facing Su Che's words, Peepo responded with a smile. That's right, after all, punching in the card means that the person has come. However, I think Mr. Tony Stark's chance to go to the desert to show off his weapons gave Peepo enough personal time. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to show up in the coffee shop early in the morning. Listening to Peebo's joking words, Su-che picked up his coffee and laughed. Don't tell me, Tony went to the desert to show off his weapons, which really made me feel a lot easier. Otherwise, having to help a young child deal with all kinds of things and all kinds of daily garbage every day is always not so pleasant. Nodding his head, Peepo agreed with Su-che's words. Tony's departure really gave Peepo enough personal time. At least, as it is now. I can show up in the coffee shop early in the morning.